All right, you guys, please read through the notes or have them open in front of you before we kind of look at these questions together. This is the homework for Module 6. Student government at CCD wants to conduct a survey of student opinion. It wants to begin with a simple random sample of 60 students. Which of the following survey methods will produce a simple random sample? So A says survey the first 60 students to arrive on campus one morning. Now it's convenience. B, survey every 10th student to enter the library until 60 students are surveyed. That is systematic, every 10th student. Use a random number generator, I'm sure it meant to say, to select 30 first-year students and 30 second-year students. That's not going to be simple random sample because we're only doing, that one is only doing those two parts. D, number the seats at the cafeteria, then use a random number to interview students in those seats until 60 students have been surveyed. Well, if they want to conduct a survey of student opinion, getting all of the students from the cafeteria is not going to give you any information on students who don't eat in the cafeteria. If your school is anything like my school, not many students at all eat in the cafeteria. Part E, number the students enrolled in college and use a table of random numbers to choose 60 students from that list. Bingo, that is the correct answer. Whoops. E. Okay. 2, using the info from problem 1, which method would produce a systematic sample? We talked about that. It was B. Whoops, it's a weird B. My name starts with B. I think the B, well, my dog has jumped up into my lap and he's making it hard to write. Okay. Suppose Denver Mayor Michael Hancock asked you to poll residents of Denver. He gave you a list of all the residents of Denver and their phone numbers. Describe the procedure you would use to obtain a simple random sample of 25 people. Well, you guys may have different ideas of what this looks like. For me, what I would do is create a database or like a spreadsheet with everyone's name on there. And then I would use a simple, a random number generator to generate 25 numbers and choose the corresponding people in that list. So if like I had one, well, this is Miss Binkley. 2 is, I don't know, Maria. 3 is John. Okay. So if I were going to, and I make a list, and so obviously there would be hundreds of thousands of people on this list. If it's everybody in Denver, the random number generator would spit back, maybe it spits back a 2 as one of those numbers. Then I know that Maria would be one of the people to poll. Question 4, a polling firm is interested in surveying a representative sample of registered voters in the United States. So they want, that's the important part. They want a sample of registered voters, okay? The firm has automated its sampling so that random phone numbers within the United States are called. Each time a number is called, the procedure below is followed. Let me go back here. The firm has automated its sampling so that random phone numbers within the United States are called. Each time a number is called, the procedure below is followed. If there's no response or if an answering machine is reached, another number is automatically called. If a person answers, a survey worker verifies that the person is at least 18 years of age. If the person is not at least 18 years of age, no response is recorded and another number is called. If the person is at least 18 years of age, that person is surveyed. Some people claim the procedure being used does not permit the results to be extended to all registered voters. Which of the following is a legitimate concern about the procedures being used? Well, Once you start reading these, you're like, yeah, that makes sense, that makes sense, that makes sense. Registered voters with children under 18 years of age may be underrepresented in the sample because they just hung up on them if like the child answered. That makes sense. Registered voters with unlisted telephone numbers may be underrepresented. Registered voters who have more than one telephone number, registered voters who live in household consistent. And all of those make sense, but remember, what's the bigger issue here? We're trying to understand what registered voters wanted, but they didn't get a list of just registered voters. So the answer is E. People who are not registered to vote may bias the sample results. Although, I don't know, I feel like in this particular instance, you shouldn't just worry about what registered voters want. We need to try to make sure everybody is registered and voting, and government helps all people, not just those that are registered to vote. So in my opinion, that seems like a strange thing, but who knows what they were looking for. Oops. 5, at a certain university, students who live in the dorms eat at a common dining hall. Recently, some students have been complaining about the quality of the food served there. The dining hall manager decided to do a survey to estimate the proportion of students living in the dormitories who think that the quality of the food should be improved. One evening, the manager asked the first 100 students entering the dining hall to answer the following question. Many students believe that the food served in the dining hall needs improvement. Do you think that the quality of the food needs improvement, even though that would increase the cost of the meal plan, yes or no? Question A says, explain how bias may have been introduced based on the way this convenient sample was selected and suggest how the sample could have been selected differently to avoid bias. So one random evening, surveys the first 100 students entering the dining hall, okay? So not only is it not a simple random sample, but he did it one evening. So maybe there's students that don't eat at the dining hall in the evening, maybe they eat in the morning. So he's only getting information about a specific set of students. What if the food in the evening was really good, but breakfast food was terrible? He would never know that that was the case. Part B says, explain how bias may have been introduced based on the way the question was worded and suggest how it could have been worded differently. So, and I want you to take a moment and go back to the notes so that, whoops, that's not the notes. Go back to the notes so that you know where you can find these things. I think it's at the very end of the notes. It talks about the different ways you can ask questions. C, response bias. So you can have open versus closed questions, unbalanced response questions. You can read through those, you probably did. So asking a person what is their favorite food is too open. Asking voters if they have a choice, would they be a Republican or Democrat, is too closed. How do you feel about classical music? Circle one of these. So we're just going through these. I'm looking at the different types of bias and asking a question. And I'm going to go back and look at the question. And I know it's going to be right here. Even though, whoops, I forgot where I was. I can highlight this. Even though that would increase the cost of the meal plan. So it's kind of like threatening them, you know. So what would this match up with? I think this one, planting ideas with the questions. Okay, he's already planting the idea of that question there, and that's what's going to make him have a response bias. All right, 8, the city council hired 3 college interns to measure public support for a large parks and recreation initiative in their city. The interns mailed surveys to 500 randomly selected participants in the current public recreation program. They received 150 responses. So, true or false? Even though the sample is random, it is not representative of the population of interest. That is true because he only mailed it to people already in the recreation program. So, of course, they're going to be pro the recreation program, right? They needed to get a random sample of everybody in the city. Part 9, talk show host Bull Loney Baloney asked listeners of his to call in to give their opinion on a topic they had just spent most of the program ranting about. The station got 384 calls. This is an example of what type of sample. That is a volunteer sample. I think it is the first example that is that was part of your notes. So volunteer. This was true. We went over this. Whoops. Listen. Please listen to that one. All right, you guys, I think we are good.